Hello, welcome to the channel. This is not for financial advice, just for entertainment purposes only. Just kind of sharing my random thoughts and practicing some analysis, etc., etc. So I created this graph back on the 22nd, a few days ago, last Friday, I think. And I was kind of thinking like it looked like it was forming a cup and handle. Um, and my prediction is like it's going to drop off. It's going to go up just for full information purposes. I have a few shares of Altria Group. Please don't judge me for sin stocks or whatever. I have it for the dividends because I'm trying to create passive income. And it looks like it was kind of coming around, partly because I think what was going on is that obviously there's some fear in the market, worries about the consumer, so on and so forth. Uh, and people looking for a high dividend yield. And so it's been kind of curling up for a little while now. And so it's this is the today's chart. It's been updated a few minutes. It's had a very what I was trying to say, it's been a few days since then. It's kind of rallied up some more. And I think and we're getting into overbought territory on the RSI, but I do think that it's got a little bit more ways to run. But I could see it, like I said, tailing off, but then maybe breaking above the 58, which was the recent the high back in November. And in indicator wise, the 50 we're above everything. We're above the 55. We're above the 813. We're also above the anchored VWAP, and we're also above the I forgot what you call that thing, volume profile, I think is what it's called here. So I feel very comfortable. I mean, it just right. Anything that kind of rallies for a while, it's going to pull back. It's not unexpected. So I can see a pullback coming, which I think will be here sometime. But I definitely think it'll break above. With the economy being uncertain, uh, the odds are people are saying we're going to go into a recession. Typically, inelastic products like this will do well. Also, the government, I think, revoked, I think it was like the methanol cigarette, and also maybe there's going to be some movement on the marijuana front, and Ultra is positioned to do well in that, I believe. So it's an interesting play. It's not a sexy play, but it's something that I've been using for dividends. I'm back in it way back in like the low 40s, I think, and I haven't been adding. I don't have a huge position, unfortunately, but it is what it is. I also have some BTI, which I bought it because it had a better dividend yield. I totally screwed this up. I wasn't paying attention. I had this one leap that I could have sold for. I totally botched it. I totally messed up and was not paying attention to the earnings call because I totally got hammered after the earnings call, and I should have been monitoring the situation better. Okay, anyway, I'm griping about that. But if we look here, though, it doesn't quite have quite the same move. But I mean, at some point, I could see BTI coming back. Now, it's fallen below a lot of support. Obviously, it's below the anchor VWAP. It is sitting on institutional support at the 55. And, I would say it doesn't quite have the presence in America, obviously. So it doesn't have quite the marijuana play that Altria does, but it's got a good yield. And I could see this kind of, you know, coming back around here. And let's do this really quick. I'm not going to draw it. You can imagine, right? You can kind of see it kind of curving. So, and it's in a like not oversold, not overbought situation. So I might be adding a little bit here once it kind of stabilizes because I picked up a little bit on the day that it dropped, and it got punished for it by going lower. If I had any balls, I would have bought here, but I'm always like, well, is it going to get worse? So I think if we stay here for a few more days, just kind of consolidating, then maybe it'll be preparing itself to kind of start, making a slow grind upwards. So. Well, once again, not financial advice, just for entertainment purposes only. Like I said, yeah, just for entertainment purposes only. But I am fascinated by this. I'm more fascinated by this just by whether or not this will play out the way that I'm kind of thinking that it will. And it doesn't take a genius, right? I think anybody who there's lots of people with tons more experience than me who can see this coming, maybe, if I'm right. But to me, it's like, oh, I'm kind of learning more about technical analysis, kind of seeing patterns, kind of understanding supports, so on and so forth. That yeah, make me more comfortable trying to trade or invest going forward, at least swing trading. I mean, the cool thing is here is if you look here, you got this whole range of day. It's just kind of hammering on this. Oh crap! Hold on. Just hammering on this anchored volume profile, where this just means where most of the stock is traded recently. I also put it on this date here. So on the day I use this date, the highest where it reached for my anchored VWAP, but also for my volume profile. And so, if you look here, the VWAP, okay, if I understand this correctly, the VWAP and the volume profile create kind of this range where it's kind of pitting it in there for a while. It's actually kind of fighting it back and forth here before it broke through. But it gives you this level like, okay, like in between 52 and 53, there's kind of some support there, if that makes any sense. Like if you're reading this right, there's some support there. Just like there's some support here in the 51. And so it gives you some comfort. So like if you were watching this kind of bounce around here for a few days, you might feel comfortable taking a bet at 53, right? Once it broke through again, right? Because it dropped down, it rose up, dropped down, and then started testing it on these days, and then it broke through. What's that? Like last week sometime. So once it broke through, it took off. And maybe if you were a real technical trader, you would have seen that. Okay, look, I'm trapped in, I'm supported by the 55. I broke through a VWAP. You know, hold on a second. Let's take a look at that day. Like I don't pay attention to this stuff every day because it's a lot of work if I'm not going to do anything with it. All right, it's a little hard to see because I'm on the 1 minute chart, but you can see that when it broke through VWAP here, the anchored VWAP here, this black line, I mean, it kind of, all right, it took off for good, right? It's been rallying ever since it broke through VWAP. So if we look here at the 1 hour, I'll just try to make it easier to look at, all right? But you can see on the 1 hour on the 20th, right? It was bouncing right on that VWAP. I mean, look, on this day here, hey, that's kind of fascinating. So we're on the 1 hour chart. It broke through VWAP. It was supported by the 55, right? So when it broke through VWAP here, it sat on the VWAP, but it also sat on the 55, which is institutional support, and so it kind of crushed. Now, if you were more of a gambling man, you could see that some of the shorter indicators, the 18 and 31, were breaking through the 55, maybe at this point already, right? So back on the 19th, you could see some signs that it broken through VWAP and then dropped below it, but then it really rocketed through. It got pushed up by all those. So I know people like to laugh at technical analysis or this, that, and the other. Maybe it's just because it's just a lot of work. But I just find it very fascinating how it always, not always, but more often than not, there's some evidence there. And once again, you just have to be comfortable with the risk taking, right? If you look here, you can see how it got, right? This is the anchor volume profile, how that, how this anchor volume profile was providing support when the 55 and these others cannot provide support for the stock price, the anchor volume profile was providing support. People were saying most people bought in at this price, and so they weren't gonna. Some people aren't gonna sell for a loss. They're just kind of holding on to it. I mean, it runs right through all of this, so it's kind of interesting. Anyway, I'm just rambling, but I find this stuff very fascinating, and I honestly think that if people were to learn technical analysis, um, at least there'd be some more comfort in the trades that are being made. I'm not saying it's perfect. There are lots of things that can shock the market that technical analysis cannot do anything about. But I think it's a little bit better than just yellowing or diamond handing or whatever else people do. Now, I don't play options anymore because of the fact that I mean, I've recovered from my mistakes in the past. I kind of enjoy more of the passive income approach with an occasional option play that I feel kind of decent about. I did have some March 21, 60 calls that I was down in, I broke even in, I kept one. So I have one that's in the profit. Okay, I'm up like $10 at a $5 investment, big deal. But I thought it made sense to make the trade when I did. But anyway, I'm rambling. I'll stop rambling. Anyway, good luck to everybody. Hope you have a good life, I have to say.